Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott, and I'm here to give you a first look at the Zeiss Milvus. This is a 50mm f2, and it is a macro planar lens, and so that means that it has a 1:2 reproduction ratio. So we're going to jump in and take a look at the actual build here, and I'm going to give you kind of some mental comparisons to the previous classic version of the lens that I reviewed a couple of years ago. Okay, we're going to take a close look here at the Zeiss Milvus, and this is the 50mm f2, and this is a macro planar design, and so it is a macro lens. And so I actually reviewed the classic version of this lens back a couple of years ago, and there's a lot of things I liked about it. Image quality was very good. I liked the versatility of a 50mm lens that also has the macro capability, although in this case, note that with these macro planar lenses, it's not a full 1:1 macro, it is a 1:2. And so it's a half size reproduction ratio. That being said, in my experience, most of the time, this is enough magnification for me. And so I found that having a 50mm lens that has that added capability really makes it an extremely versatile lens. There's just a lot of situations where a lens like this is very valuable. Now, the one thing that I wasn't crazy about in the classic version was that I found that usually I'm delighted by the focus action on a Zeiss lens, and I really wasn't with the classic lens. I found that the resistance was much more stiff, it wasn't nearly as smooth, and so that combined with the fact that because it's a macro lens, as you can see, it's got a really long focus throw. It just made focusing it not a joy, and if you've got a manual focus only lens, it better be a nice lens to focus. So while this lens is only moderately changed in terms of optical formula, it's pretty much the same optical formula as before, 8 elements in 6 groups. And however, the coatings are improved, and then of course this physical design is improved. Now, one thing that has happened, as happens with all of these Milvus lenses, is that it has gotten a bit heavier, and now it is, it's for a Zeiss lens, it's on the lighter side for Zeiss lenses, but it's heavy by most lenses standards. So it's 1.6 pounds or 730 grams, which makes it, in my mind, kind of a moderate lens when it comes to weight. And as you can see, while it's fairly big around when it comes to the actual diameter of the lens, the diameter of the lens is about 3.2 inches or 81 millimeters. So, I mean, it's a thick lens, but it's also, in terms of the length, at least in the retracted position, it's quite a compact lens, under 3 inches, 2.96 inches, or 75.3 millimeters. And so it's actually quite an attractive size. And if you're familiar with, say, a lens like Canon's 35mm f2 IS, that is a roughly comparable size in terms of the dimensions. Now, what this lens does, however, is that the barrel does extend quite a bit during focus. Now, the reason for that, of course, is that it does have such a high magnification ratio. Most 50mm lenses are somewhere around 0.15 times magnification, so this is in a completely different ballpark. But the reason for this is to allow for that kind of magnification. And as a result, as you zoom towards the 1:2 ratio, the lens barrel does extend by, it doesn't double in length, but it probably adds about 2/3 of the overall length again once the barrel is fully extended. But for most part, this is going to be quite a compact lens, and it's going to be easy to bring along, in my estimation. And that's really what makes it attractive, is that it's a moderately sized lens that has that added versatility of having the macro performance. So that's the reason why I wanted to take another look at it. So let's break a few other things down. Obviously, in the Milvus version, you have a beautifully designed lens hood that is the same anodized metal. It is flocked on the inside. And what I love about the way that Milvus lenses are designed, or Otis lenses for that matter, Batiste lenses, etc., is that the lens hood is actually it's purposely designed to where it doesn't look like an add-on. It doesn't look like you've tacked something on the front, but the lens profile looks complete with the lens hood on there, which to me in part is going to make sure that you use it more often. And by the way, you should use it on this because like the previous classic version, while I'm not dealing with image quality today, there's basically one optical weakness, and that is this lens is a little bit flare prone. And so use that lens hood, it certainly makes a difference. The body itself is all anodized metal, other than this section right here that is a rubberized surface, like other Milvus lenses, where it has that rubberized focus ring. Thankfully, unlike the classic version, the focus action is Zeiss perfection. It is beautifully smooth, and yes, it's still a long focus throw there, but doing that focus I find is much more attractive simply because it's such a joy to focus. And so I'm not feeling the same kind of, before I was kind of torn when it came to the focus action. I liked the results from the lens. I didn't really enjoy focusing it. I'm not having that issue here. The other reason why this lens is potentially attractive to me is a lens to work between multiple systems, using it via adapter on mirrorless, because it's still not so exceptionally large or heavy that it becomes impractical there. And looking at it, even for myself, this is a potential crossover lens. So unlike some 50mm lenses, this has a maximum aperture of only f2. And so you certainly have options, including another Milvus 50mm lens that has a larger maximum aperture. But of course, the choice here, the trade-off is that this is a smaller lens, much smaller than what the Milvus 50mm f1.4. And of course, it has, if you really want the macro capability, then this is the one to go to. And one thing about Zeiss's macro planar lenses, even compared to some other, when it comes to macro type lenses, is that they're really, really good when it comes to the distortion, even if you're doing something like shooting documents, which some macro lenses, that's just not their forte. The Milvus macro planar lenses actually do quite well in that kind of application. So the optical formula is 8 elements in 6 groups. You can focus down to 9.45 inches or 24 centimeters. And so, that means that at macro distance, you can see a marking here. This is a Canon 6D body. And so you can see a marking here. That's where the sensor is. And so that is 9 inches from there. And so as you can see, and I'm just estimating here, but this is roughly about right, that at 1 to 2 magnification, you're really not all that far from your subject. And so the one challenge with a shorter working distance like that is you may have to watch out for potentially shading your subject with the lens or the camera body itself. Like the other Milvus lenses, the build is exceptional. It is fully weather sealed, not just at the gasket, but internally. And so unlike the classic series, that was something that I kind of hammered Zeiss lenses on in the past. That is fully solved now. This is a beautifully weather sealed, beautifully constructed lens. And Zeiss lenses really are a joy to use. Now that the focus action is better, you're going to control your aperture. There's no aperture ring here. As you can see, aperture is controlled electronically through the body, just like other lenses. And so you can do that right from within the body itself. And so there's a lot of versatility, a nice size. So as you can see, the Milvus design has produced a lens that to me is a serious ergonomic improvement over the previous generation lens. And of course, the addition of weather sealing in the Milvus lineup is extremely welcome. And that beautifully buttery smooth focus, that is one of the reasons why I love Zeiss outside of the optics, is there like it should be. And so to me, that in itself makes this a major upgrade on the Milvus 50mm f2. I'll come back to you, however, with an image quality segment where we'll break that down. We'll take a look at how this lens performs. And then I want to give you some final feedback on how and if this lens works in a market that has a number of new and very good 50mm-ish options since the classic lens came out, where it was, at that time, it was kind of head and shoulders above a competition when it comes to the optical performance. Things have changed though. We'll take a look in the next episode to see if the Milvus 50mm f2 still has a place for photographers. I'm Dustin Abbott, and if you look in the description down below, you'll find the ongoing ongoing image gallery I've got a lot of beautiful images, not hard to do with a Zeiss lens, that are there. So I encourage you to take a look at that. Also, there's some buying links if you're interested in shopping for one for yourself. And you can there follow me on social media or become one of my patrons at my Patreon account. As always, thanks for watching today, and have a great day.